Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar, Extending Your C.CURE 9000 System with Access Management Workflow and Visitor Management. My name is Carol Vidaro, and I'm the Senior Marketing Communications Manager for Software House. Our panelists today are Ashley Tusignot, Senior Product Manager for C.CURE 9000, Rick Foke, Director of Product Management, Paul Chasen, Regional Sales Manager, and Jake Jacobson, Senior Applications Engineer. Just going to go through a few housekeeping items before we begin. The phones are muted to prevent any background noise. The webinar is being recorded, and a link will be sent to all attendees along with the PowerPoint by tomorrow. And we'll be taking questions throughout the webinar after each section, so please feel free to add a question in the question box to the right of your screen. So now I'm going to turn the webinar over to Paul, who'd like to say a few words.
Thank you, Carol. Hello, everyone. My name is Paul Chasen, Northeast Regional Sales Manager. Just really wanted to thank everyone for joining us and taking the time out to spend the next hour with us going through what we think is some exciting applications within the C.CURE 9000 that everybody will benefit from. And please, if you have any questions, feel free, as Carol said, to input those, and we'll get to them as quick as possible, if not on this call itself. And hope everyone is safe and managing through this difficult time for our country. And again, appreciate your time on the call.
Great. Thanks, Paul. Yeah, this is Rick Foke. Now let's get going here. Thanks again for the time. As Paul said, C.CURE 9000 has really been enhanced over the last few years with visitor management and what we're calling our access workflow feature. But if you look at 9000 at a higher level, there really are two core areas of focus that we're working on these days. The first, of course, is our bread and butter, enhancing the security operations, providing a very efficient platform for alarm management, for response time, for popping up the right video camera with the right door forced open alarm. This is our true calling over the last 30 years, let's say. And we continue to improve those feature sets with every rev. 2.8 just came out, had some nice automatic video camera to door linkages, for example, and a nice security view, which gives you a built-in alarm assessment. So every rev you'll see more and more of the operations center features. But meanwhile, maybe as a side group within engineering, we've been working on extending the use of the system. You've paid for this great system, right? It has super horsepower. It has all the bells and whistles for the operations center. Why not use it for other things? Okay. And over the years, I've gotten a ton of requests to just add embedded visitor management into your system. You have the database, you have the credentials in there, just give us the visitor management functionality. So we have, okay, we're calling it, space as a service, giving you the control of different spaces, within your system and trying to get the load off of the security guard, right? Why should the security guard have to, manage visitors? Why should the security guard have to always, remove and add clearances, right? So we're calling it centralized policies managed by security, but decentralized ownership of these functions, right? So, for the access management example, this is basically the idea of a self-service approach to adding clearances, okay? Let the person that really has ownership in that clearance be the one to approve who gets access to that area. Right, so we've been very successful. I know Paul and Jake have done a ton of separate webinars over the last few years on these two features alone, because people can really see the benefit of enhancing their C.CURE system, with these functions.
Yeah, Rick, as you get into the access management workflow, I will just make a quick comment. This is Paul. That features like that have really been designed based upon voice of the customer. And we have some local sites up here in the Northeast that are using this at a very high level with a lot of success and some very encouraging case studies to share with the group. So as Rick goes through this, I may talk a little bit about some installations here so you guys kind of have a working idea on how this works.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Paul. So again, we're going to cover these two topics today, the access management workflow, which is, again, like the self-service approach to clearance management. Okay, it seems to be the biggest pain point for our large customers. You know, you just get a ton of clearance requests, you know, day in, day out, and it just grinds their staff to a halt in some cases. The second topic we'll cover is visitor management. You know, the idea of using C.CURE for that, you know, visitor enrollment, visitor check-in, you know, the whole visitor experience within C.CURE and the recording of those visits within the same journals of C.CURE. Okay, then we have a nice finish here to go over the visit verified identity feature of C.CURE Visit using Civic, which just I think actually launched last month. But yeah, I believe it was
March. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good. Let's move on. On the bottom of the screen here, you'll see 4 different icons. Basically, these 2 features are accessed through C.CURE with a web portal. And if you're a user with full privileges, you'll see all 4 of these icons. Okay, the visitor management, the reception portal for the visitor management system. Then we're going to first talk about the 2 on the right here, the access requester and the access approver features here. And this is our access management workflow feature. Okay, so again, when I, as a C.CURE card holder, okay, not a full operator, okay, that's one main point to get through here. This is not just for the, you know, the full-scale C.CURE operator that does the alarm management and all that. This portal is for card holders themselves to log in and, you know, get going with the system, okay, with a valid email address and Windows authentication account. Your card holders can be able to log in and use the system directly. Okay, so here I've logged in, okay, to the system. Now, I mentioned this before, that a lot of our large customers have, you know, a ton of clearance requests coming in, and, you know, the poor C.CURE operators just get inundated, okay, with managing these requests, keeping track of them. You know, these emails come flying in, and in the midst of this, they kind of lose the overall reason for why that clearance was requested in the first place, okay? And in some cases, you know, the operators aren't really the persons that should be doing the approvals themselves, right? They don't know if that person really needs the lab or not. You know, how should they know? So a lot of times they're just kind of assuming things, and this is not good for, you know, the more recent compliance regulations that are coming into effect as well. So we're attempting to answer these questions with this new feature. You know, who did approve the access? Okay, who had access? Who still has access? You know, why is it needed? What was the reason behind it? These are all going to be answered with this new feature here. I shouldn't say new. It's been out for, since I believe we're at 2.6. So it's about 3 years old, and it's still ramping up. We're still getting a lot of good traction on it. So the main premise is it is a self-service management feature for clearances, right? The idea would be that the employee would go in there and request access that he or she thinks they should have, right? For some reason they don't. At that point, the owner, who's been set up within C.CURE in that clearance editor, the owner will get an email saying, hey, log on and, you know, check it out and say yes or no to that request. And emails will be happening along the way. Okay, so the person will get notified if that request was granted, and all these actions are stored in the C.CURE database. So it helps to improve the efficiency of your operators. They can do other more important things. It lowers your risk of somebody getting in the area that shouldn't be getting in that, you know, secure area. And for certain customers, it really helps them to meet their compliance requirements. You know, in some cases, the industry demands a 3-month checkup of all accesses, for example. I'll show you how we can do that with this feature. Okay, and here's just a review of those different benefits. Okay, this one's really important here. You're really empowering the cardholders themselves to, take responsibility to make those access requests. So you could really look at your overall access management with a more restrictive approach to begin. Don't give everybody all the accesses they could possibly need, right? Start with a smaller group when they add a card record, and then over time, let them be the ones to really go forward and get that request in to add access. So start small and add versus start with a huge group and then take away over time. Okay, so I got a bunch of screenshots. I figured I'd just show you, what it looks like in that portal as the process happens. So here we have a view when the person logged in and hit the request view, or the request icon, right? And if the person has more than one request, they'll see them in this workflow list on the left here. Okay, and they can, hit a button here for a new request. Okay, and then they start filling out a form. Okay, they have the site here. Okay, the name of the request, and then here's the main thing: is the clearance list. And if you hit the the plus, you'll see the list of clearances that are available for that request. Now, not every clearance will be available. It's up to the operator of the system to designate which ones will appear on this interface. Okay. Then if you're using expiring clearances, which we've covered in a few of the other webinars the past few weeks, these are with the iStar Ultra controllers. You can assign a clearance to a person just for a certain time frame. So if this person needs access to the the rear doors for just a week or two, they can put in that request for those specific start and stop times. Then here's what's really helpful: the reason why. Okay, and this is a mandatory field. Like, why do you need this clearance, right? Type in your reason. It's going to go to that approver, okay, for his or her analysis. And there's more. Okay, you can request it for yourself, and you can add other personnel in at the same time. So if you're a manager, you can put in a request for your whole department to get access to a certain clearance. You can attach documents as evidence, right? If you need to, attach your training certificate or hazmat certification for a certain area, you can attach those documents to this request. So a lot of good features built in here to really make the decision of should I approve this or not as easy as possible. Okay, and yeah, Jake, feel free to add some commentary of features you've used over the past few years as well. Something I missed.
Yeah, actually going back to the screen you just had, just one point. So the dates, the start date, the end date, like Rick was saying, you can customize that. So if they only need the access, for 7 days, and how that shows up in their actual record in C.CURE is they would be a, like an activation expiration date next to that clearance on the clearance tab of their record. And it actually has a note. And that note basically identifies that was assigned through an approval process. Just so that when you're in a record and you're looking at standard clearances that were, applied, and then clearances that were applied through an approval process, that you'd be able to identify that.
Good. Okay. So yeah, once the person gets the request in, then an email is sent. Okay, an acknowledgement that okay, well, we got your request. Okay, it's being processed. Hang on. The person can always jump back to the link if they get nervous, and check out the status of that request. Okay, so now let's turn to the approver. And again, this is a person that's been, designated as an approver for a specific clearance. And again, it doesn't have to be a C.CURE operator. It can be a C.CURE cardholder, right? They don't need full operator privileges. All they need to do is log onto the portal now and then and, do their workflow, right? And it basically consists of going through the list of pending requests and hitting the down arrow or the down thumb or the thumbs up, right? Thumbs down, thumbs up here, just like, Facebook, a like or a not like. Is that a term? Unlike. So basically, as the person clicks through the list, the details for that request will come up, and they can make their judgment and say yes or no. I believe the next screen has a little more detail. It's the same screen basically. They look through the documents, look through the personnel, look through the times, and when they do the confirmation or the deny, they need to put in a comment as well. Okay, sorry, we don't think you need access. Please go to this area instead, or approved, have a nice day, whatever. And this all gets logged in C.CURE as well. Okay, and there's an email after that happens, right? So the person that did the request, in this case, a guy named Jim Jacobson, gets the email, said, yep, approved. Okay, there you go, there's your dates. You're all set. And at that point, C.CURE also sends down that clearance to the iStars that it needs to. So it's all in the background. There's no touching of the admin station at all in this whole process. It's all behind the scenes. In fact, there's a setting on the clearance so that the only way to assign a certain clearance is through this portal, right? Because why do you want to go through this whole approval process, but then somebody can log on to C.CURE as an operator and just give the clearance to that same person without any approval, right? So there's a way to lock it down so that this process must be followed for certain clearances.
Rick, we're losing your audio.
Uh-oh, sorry.
I got him okay.
Is it better now?
Sounds good here.
I ordered the upgrade from Verizon, but it hasn't come through yet for my speed on Fios.
I'm hearing you fine.
Yeah, I think you're okay, Ashley. That might have been on your end. I hear him fine.
Okay, good. Okay, so just a few more screens on the access workflow side of things. One of the additional features we added in 2.8 was this idea of a dynamic manager approval. Okay, the standard way to approve things is with a static list. Either a person or somebody from a group of people can be the approver for a clearance. In fact, you can also have a stepped approval, like, the first approval goes to this group and then has to go to a second approver from the separate group. That's all in the clearance setup as well. But in 2.8, though, we had the idea of a dynamic approver, which is basically the person's boss. As long as the manager, the boss, is imported in through, an LDAP feed or Active Directory of some sort, and the manager's email address is in the person's personnel record, that's who's going to get the request to approve, the clearance. Okay, so it's a nice way to, just have the manager, whoever that is for any person, be the first approver. Okay, so that's the basic process there. Now, the other side of things, in fact, this could be a reason, to get this feature in itself. It's this idea of a review and an audit, okay? And you can see it's even like a separate tab on the clearance screen. Okay, this is just a clearance editor in C.CURE here. So what you can do is specify a recurring schedule for a review of that clearance and who is allowed to go in that area. Again, some customers tell us they need a 3-month review of everybody that goes into that secure, area. Okay. So in this screen here, you'd select who is the reviewer, and if you look down here, if it's overdue, who's the escalated person. right? The guy didn't review within whatever the 3 months, then this person's going to get the email. Okay, so you set up a schedule, you set up the the reviewers there. It could be the same as the approvers or different. You can set up anyone in the system or any group of people to be those reviewers there. Okay, and once the reviewer goes in there, they can revoke access just on the fly. They look at the list, there's these 20 people in there, it's like, whoops, hold it, that guy's contract is done. For some reason, he's still listed in there, I'm going to take him out right there. Okay, so in fact, you can use this part of the feature without even doing the approvals if you want. Just use it as a way to easily review clearance assignments for certain high security clearances. Okay, and then the last thing here, again, we're getting the emails going. So here's an example of the reviewer getting the emails like, look, you got to review this clearance, by this date, and here's the link to jump right there, to go in there and log in and do that review. So I guess we can pause here. Ashley or Carol, do we have any questions that have come in?
I don't have access to the question, so hopefully Carol can jump in and we can cover any access workflow ones before we jump over to visitor management.
Sure, I was on mute. Sorry, guys. Are these cool features available in basic visitor management, or do we need to purchase the enhanced visitor management?
Well, the answer is neither. This is actually a separate feature. I forgot to mention that before. This is a paid feature. It's called Access Management Workflow. And it is available in like 3 different sizes based on your core C.CURE system size. Okay. So yeah, that's it. Then if you have a mass SaaS architecture, you need to look and see where the clearances are on the personnel, and usually you want to add it to the mass if there's global personnel and global clearances only, or you can put on a SaaS if you have local clearances.
Can you request access on behalf of someone?
I believe, Jake, you want to answer that one? Hello, Jake?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was muted. So the way the request process works, the person's access to the portal is set up in the personnel record. So someone can, let's think of it as if you're a supervisor, you can log into the portal, and in your personnel record in C.CURE is where your credentials are set, your email address, and that you've been allocated to have the ability to make requests. So when you log onto the portal, you'll be able to access based on the request site and view the clearances that are on that request site, and you can request a clearance for someone. It defaults to you. You're requesting the clearance for yourself, but based on how it's configured, you can exclude yourself from the request and add other people to that request.
Oh, good. Okay, great. So the answer is yes. Okay.
Can a supervisor be in the approver process for self-service management of clearance assignments along with the clearance owner?
Can supervisor and the clearance owner? Well, yeah, you have to be set up as 2 approvers. Then one would be the dynamic manager, and the second that would be the static clearance approver. I believe that's what the question was inferring. So yeah, you have both like in a stepped approach.
Or just the multiple approval.
Or the first one in, right? Multiple, you know. Yeah, there's a
And
lot of different rules and possibilities there, you know, for the approval process.
Can the visitor management web browser be isolated in any way from a secure environment of C.CURE servers?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. The portal, which, you know, supports the visitor management icons that you saw in the access workflow interface, that's running on IIS, and that can either be, you know, hosted on the same server as your core C.CURE, you know, for smaller systems, right? Or on larger ones, it usually ends up being a separate server. Okay, just to kind of divide up the load and to, you know, keep things organized.
Does this send a CC to the approver so they have a record as well?
I don't know, Jake, does the email get sent to the approver? Hey, Jake, you there?
Well, yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
No, yeah.
As far as when the request, when the request is sent out,
when
the approval process takes
no,
place.
when the approver goes in and hits the thumbs up, right, and he approves something, the email gets sent back to the requester saying, hey, congratulations, you have your clearance. Is there an email also sent at that same time to the approver as like a confirmation or a copy of that same email?
Yeah, I mean, I believe the email goes out to the requester that it was approved. As far as, you know, a copy going to the approver, I don't believe so.
No. Okay. Well, can add to our long backlog list. No, that's actually a good idea. You know, just to, you know, carbon copy the approver. You know, so there's a record in his email as well. Okay. Any more questions, Carol, or should we move along?
I think we should move along. We do have some more questions, but if we have time at the end, we can revisit. And if not, you know, these questions will be answered and compiled in an FAQs document.
You know, and just if you don't mind, just to put a ribbon on that particular feature for the group on the webinar, seeing a lot of activity in healthcare, higher education, the pharmaceutical market space, anywhere you might see a lab or an area that somebody wants to manage, to Rick's point, but not somebody that wants to be a C.CURE 9000 user. So when you're thinking about where this would apply and who you might want to talk to about adding this functionality, really just gets down to assigning functionality to somebody that's looking for it that would never be a C.CURE 9000 full thick or thin client user of the system. So a lot of the cases and installations I've been involved with, higher education, healthcare, biopharmaceutical, lab type environments as well. Just wanted to end with that. Thanks, Rick.
Yeah, great. Okay. Well, good. Let's shift gears a little bit now, and I'm going to hand it over to Ashley, who's going to lead us through the visitor management features of C.CURE.
Great, thanks, Rick. Yeah, so let's cover visitor management. Let's jump right in, Rick. So just to give a little bit of the landscape of what we're looking at over the next 8 to 10 years, it's great expected growth at 15.5%. And they're estimating by the year of 2027 to be a $7 billion market size. So, you know, us personally on the software house side have seen great growth with our product. There's obviously different software solutions in the market today, but the beauty of working with C.CURE VMS is that you're coupling our powerful security and event management capabilities with our new visitor management platform, all for one central solution that is easy to manage. So definitely a great benefit there. What we're finding is that the market growth is largely attributed to the increasing demand for enhancing the safety and security of businesses. when looking at visitors specifically coming on and off site, and also coupled with the need to improve administrative processes and, the dreaded logbook that everybody is so familiar with over the past 15 to 20 years. So next slide, please. So just, real quick a look at our portal again. So Rick focused on the access requester and access approver side. We're going to jump right into the first two icons here for visitor management. So the first icon goes over our completely embedded solution that, digitally replaces our paper-based visitor logbooks and is a more efficient way to manage our visitors. And then the second icon is our reception portal, which is a completely web-based interface that allows an untrained receptionist or security guard, somebody who's not trained in C.CURE specifically, to be able to manage the flow of visitors easily. And then lastly, I'll just touch on our latest and greatest Civic launch that came out last month. So C.CURE Visitor Management is just allowing our authorized operators to create and manage scheduled visits and process visitors from check-in point to checkout point. And this can happen from any administration client workstation. So you're marrying your one system, one database. It's a more manageable tracking and reporting tool to work with C.CURE. So here from this, I'm able to create visits, create new visitors, create visit sites, check in visitors, check them out, manage unplanned visitors and visits that come up on the fly, and I can even assign and return credentials. So here's a quick look at some of the peripheral items that you get with the VMS, especially the enhanced visitor management solution. So you'll have the full reception dashboard, which I'll go into all those screenshots in more depth. You have our self-service kiosk check-in, which is the iPad on the right-hand side. We also have integration to ID scanners, and there's going to be more launching with 2.9 this summer. We're going to have a couple new flavors available. You're also able to print visitor labels, and we have Wi-Fi capability printers that hook, that work right with our kiosk check-in for a wireless approach. We have a new color printer that's launching in the next couple of weeks. So that will be added to the new price book. And we have the ability to have QR code support for scheduled visits.
Right. Okay,
So
so here we go.
What the host view is. So to be a host of a visit, you don't need to be a C.CURE 9000 operator. You just need to have the proper permissions in order to host a visit. So you also don't have to log into the admin client. You can manage and visit straight from the C.CURE portal, as shown here. So that would be the login screen in the center. From there, once you're logged into the portal, you'll be able to create a visit from a visit template, define the visit instructions, attach any necessary documentation, and more just by sending the invite email to that visitor. And then on the next slide, we're going to see what goes over to the visitor. So from the host, they're going to receive an email, and that's going to have a custom QR code with all the visit details, and it allows them to have an express check-in when they come on site, and they'll have the ability to add this to their calendar. And any further visit instructions or attachments needed for their visit, like any procedure documentation that could be useful, will come along with this email. And here, Rick, if you want to just play through.
I think it's playing now, isn't it?
Oh, yep, it's going through now. I see it. So when somebody comes on site, this was just giving you a flavor that it could be they can select their native language. They go through, they don't have a QR code. In this case, the person selected no. So they're able to either enter their email and search for their visit that way. Which I think they're.
Okay, there goes the typing.
Slow John Smith. Okay, so they couldn't find my visit that way. Thankfully, I'm not John. And you can also search by the host name as well. Who am I going to see? Well, that's encouraging. So the fastest route is if you do use your QR code from the visit, but this is just showing all the different opportunities of how you can go in. It's going to take a quick snapshot, and this can actually be printed on your visitor label. So you can walk around with your smiling face. And then you close that out, and that's going to alert the host that you're checked in and ready for the visit.
Okay. There's some options you can set up for that kiosk, whether to allow walk-ins or not. Okay, in this case we did, obviously, because the person was able to ad hoc add their details in. We can turn it off so that you have to be registered or not. Sorry, come back later when you're registered.
Right, or register with the receptionist at the front desk.
Yeah, there's some more animations here. This is a little example of the types of printers there. That's a little brother printer. Okay, there's a QR code. Okay.
Great. Okay, so now we're going to jump over to the reception portal. So this launched with version 2.8 that came out last summer. So a lot going on in this slide. I just want to take you through. There's little numbers here that go through what each of the dashboard items are available to you. So this is really user-friendly. It's streamlined so that if you're not a certified C.CURE user, you should be able to jump in and use this right away, especially if you're familiar with working with visitor management in the past, other different software solutions. So in the top right-hand corner, you're going to see number 1, that's an assist button if you're requiring any additional assistance. Maybe you need security, that's available to you. Number 2, you have the ability to see the full list of visitors for the specific date. So in this scenario, we have 6 planned visits. There's all kinds of filtering options to get down. We're gonna see those in the next few slides. Number 3, you also have the convenient status bar on that left-hand side, and that gives you the updates on all scheduled visits, including who's checked in, who may be running late, or perhaps even who's overstayed their visit. And then for number 4, that lists the check-in sites, so you can toggle between the different sites. So you might have a campus set up where you have more than one building and you can toggle through depending on what you're managing. And if someone arrives for an unplanned visit, in the top blue box, you have the ability to add a new visit on the fly. So that goes into reference what Rick was talking about on the last slide, where somebody pops in and you don't want them to use the self-service check-in, you can set them up as a visit right there. You also have visitor actions available and the search capabilities, so you can search by visitor name or host. Also a great tool that you can see is there's a watch list column. So if you have anybody flagged, or maybe there's certain people that you don't want coming in and out of the building, or they need to have a specific host, that's a good thing to highlight there. And you can also have the QR code for the express check-in through this receptionist dashboard.
Right. So just a comment here, there's a lot of different ways to structure your visit. You don't need to have the reception portal. You can have the kiosk as a totally, unmanned, thing, right? Or you could have reception portal without the kiosk, or both. Okay, so the C.CURE visit, system gives you a lot of different ways to get the visitors in and processed.
Right, so we're gonna just breeze through a couple of other screenshots here just so you can see all the different options. But in the example here, you can see we've clicked on the status box for overstayed, and you're able to filter just to that result and see, what visitors may be running late. Maybe you wanna let their host know, or and then here, you're able to pull down the column menu options for easier filtering. And this obviously we only have a few visits in this particular screenshot, but if it's a busy site, all of these tools are helpful in if you're trying to streamline what you're looking for. Another great tool is that you're able to group and ungroup. So this is helpful when you have multiple visitors coming in for one host. And then this is just another look, so you have a visitor action here. So if I have a large group of people coming in for one host, I want to save time and check them all in at the same time, or print their visitor badges. So you're able to group them together and do that. And then we also provide easy exporting options, so you can focus on any of the columns such as visitor name, host name, or the visit start time, and export that data. And you can select the visitor action for a quick drop down to check in or out, or even view their card swipe history. So did somebody overstay their visit? And where was the last card swipe that they had? So now you have the ability to look that up and potentially know where they could be in the building if they're running behind. And then here is just a quick look. You had seen in the short video clip of how the kiosk check-in takes your picture. But if you're using the receptionist dashboard, you could also use a Wi-Fi badging camera. And then you can assign a temporary credential as well.
That's one more decision to make as you're designing out your visit process. Are you going to be using actual live badges for the readers or not? Again, it's up to you. C.CURE supports both, but that is one of the key decisions. If you're going to be assigning temporary credentials and issuing them, then you probably need to have somebody there at the reception area to pass those out as needed.
Right. There's been, I've seen some cases where the unmanned booths, they'll have little Wi-Fi printer set up on a little stand next to it, so you can completely have an unmanned area and still get visitor labels. So our friends at Stratus have that set up. I've seen that.
That's right. Let's go back. So, okay, should we pause for a few more questions then?
Yeah, before we get into Civic.
I'm sure you got a ton.
Do visitors still populate the same personnel table even if they are not a badge holder but strictly an outside visitor?
Yes, if they're a personnel record and they're enabled, then yeah, they'll populate the same personnel table.
Can a QR code used with WeGAN readers for visitor access to certain areas?
That is a very popular idea, and we do have some readers that we're looking at to add that in to the product. Right now, the QR code is simply to get your information in through the check-in process to avoid the typing and all that, right? It just sucks it right in and gets you checked in. But that is a good idea for certain visitor areas to enhance those areas with QR code readers and use them to open the doors.
Does a person have to take a photo when they sign in? Oh, I'm sorry, Rick. I thought you were finished.
No, that's fine. I am.
Does a visitor have to take a photo when they sign in, or can that feature be turned off?
Yeah, that can be turned off. Same as the, I don't know if you saw that document there that's presented. That can be turned off. The various questions can be turned on and off. We didn't show you the config screens. They get, pretty elaborate there, but there's a ton of options to set up your visit templates, your visit sites, your kiosks. There's a lot of fine tuning you can do with the system.
Once a visitor is registered, can they be associated to a visitor badge for access control as well as their printed visitor label?
Yes, yeah, you can do both. Sure.
Is it possible to improve the quality of the picture taken from the kiosk?
Ashley's been fighting this one for a while.
So I
well, from the kiosk. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I believe the quality of the image that was addressed months ago, like 6 months ago. And then, we did have some feedback on the Wi-Fi printer, that being black and white, if you wanted nice color photos on your visitor labels, it wasn't the same. It wasn't going to give you the same look that you would see on the iPad itself. So like I said, we do have the new Wi-Fi printer that's a color option that's being added, and we're evaluating a high-end one as well that's known for labeling specifically. So think of things like wine labels, and but by the end of this year, we're going to have 2 new color options for that, one coming later this month and one later this year.
Can the receptionist issue an access card through this receptionist portal or the reception portal?
Well, yeah, they can issue access cards to the visitors that check in, okay? They cannot issue access cards to employees. That's actually something we're looking at as an enhancement to that interface. So if some employee forgot their card, needed a temp badge, that could be the same portal used, right? If you're there with the web interface already. But currently it's just for the visitor management aspect of things.
Is this program compatible with existing iPads/visitor sticker printers? We already have our own and would like to switch applications, not hardware.
Yeah, actually, do you want to take that one as far as what AirPrint capability?
Yeah, so any Wi-Fi enabled printer is compatible with it. The problem is that there's not many that are specific for label printers labels themselves. So what you would have is, if you have a larger Epson printer, it might be on the list of say there's 2,000 of them, but it would print out a whole sheet. So I guess it might be something to look into to make sure you're getting exactly what you're looking for. But as long as it's a Wi-Fi printer, it should be compatible.
Do I use the new visit function, or is that only for the same day?
The new visit function?
No, it could be.
Yeah,
either. So if you're using, I'm assuming they're talking about the reception dashboard, Rick. So that button at the top, you can use that for a walk-in, but somebody could create a visit for a different day from there as well, I believe.
That's true. Yeah, the popular use case is, it's right now, let's do it. The person just walked in, but yeah, they could hit the new visit button and define a visit for tomorrow or the next week. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, they can project those dates. They could set start time and end time of the visit to be, based on a calendar.
Okay, good.
Okay.
So we move on. We got one more.
Yeah, I think we should move on. There are a lot of more questions, but I think we have another section, and then we can take more questions after that.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's a short section. Just wanted to recap the launch that we did last month of the new Civic Visit Verified Identity. And Ashley's going to take us through this.
Sure. Yeah, this is our latest integration with our C.CURE VMS system. So Civic's a great company. They use blockchain, and what this is a way to pre-verify and validate any visitors or contract workers that are going to be coming on site. And it's a way for them to validate their information without sharing any PII or personally identifiable information. So it's a really safe way to exchange that, not only safe for the visitor coming on site, but also safe for you as a company who has this, because you're not collecting any data or having to store that data and all the GDPR laws that come along with that. Another thing that is great is that we built this for both 2.7 Service Pack 4 and up and 2.8 Service Pack 1. So you do have some options there for this initial release. So let's go into the next step here, Rick. So it's a pretty easy process, and I'm going to take you through some of the screenshots of what it looks like, but similar to what we just took you through and how a host would send out an invitation, If they want to pre-authorize somebody coming on site, they would select that it's a Civic visit, use a Civic template when they're setting up that visit. And there's two options here. You can either do a Civic Basic, which is just verifying the person's email, or you can do a Civic Identity, which is utilizing an official document. So that would be either a passport, license, or national ID. So either way, when the visitor receives their visit details in the email, it will have instructions of how to register and pre-verify their identity in advance. And then when the visitor arrives at the facility, they're able to use that same C.CURE visit kiosk to self-check-in, and they would just enable that it's a C.CURE visit. And there's we'll get through some screenshots there and be able to securely complete their check-in process. So here you can see, so when the host sends the email, there's going to be a link that's going to bring up information about Civic. This app can be downloaded from either the Apple Store or Google Play. It's an interesting little app. You don't even have to remember a password or login information. It literally uses your biometrics and you scan a QR code to get into the app. And then in the next screen, it will show you what you're doing. So if you're doing an identity visit, you're going to have the option to either scan, you're going to select your country and then scan what document is required, either a passport, national ID, or driver's license. And then what ends up happening is that, along with the next slide, which is a quick video representation or a quick liveness test, is conducted. And these pieces go over to the Civic group, and they utilize blockchain to qualify that information that you provided is correct, that you are a real person. The process generally takes under 3 minutes. And once the information is confirmed, it's going to be encrypted and stored on the user's mobile wallet. And the beauty of, once you go through this process once, any other sites that are using Civic or any other times you come back on site, you're going to be able to access the content that was stored in your mobile wallet as long as you still have that same mobile device. Okay, so let's just go through what it looks like at check-in. So again, here's a close-up of the C.CURE visit kiosk. They would select the green Use My Civic Act button. Once they arrive for the check-in process, they're going to use their mobile app to scan the custom QR code, and that's going to, at that time when you scan it, it's going to validate the mobile encrypted information in their wallet, and then they're able to safely log in and tap finish to allow the host to know that they've checked in. So again, you're not using a physical scanner. Nobody's actually exchanging any IDs at the time of the site. It's all done previously before they come on site and just validated when they get there.
And that's what's really driving the Civic adoption is, the companies don't want to take the risk or the legal ramifications of storing, personal information and being responsible for it. So, basically Civic does that for you. It's like outsourcing the PII storage aspect of the visit. So,
right, and
okay,
how it's set up. This is an offering that we have in our portfolio. It is a service, so basically how it works is it's set up per site, and it's based on transactions of visitors per site. So each time somebody checks in using Civic, that would tally up their usage for that month.
Right. So, yeah, again, it's fairly new for us. It was launched about a month ago, so we're eager to, get some early adopters, if you will. If you have some larger customers that would like to go the next step into use the pre-verified identity aspect of visits, please contact your area sales managers or software house reps and get some trials going.
And we're the first to the market with this. So C.CURE Visitor Management is the first to partner with Civic for visitor management validation. Yep.
Right, yeah, normally Civic, you'll see that in payments processing and other types of identification. So, okay, that concludes the formal part of the webinar here. I'm sure there's 10 more questions, Carol. I'm going to take a few more before the top of the hour.
Sure. What countries are included with Civic?
So there's over 200 supported countries, and we do have a FAQ document from our launch that provides a link to those. But they have a pretty good coverage. Right now, this is available for North America. We're doing a phased launch approach. But there is definitely a lot of interest in both EMEA and Latin America. So I'm assuming those will be the next to deploy this.
Does the visitor need to pay for the use of the Civic app?
Not the app itself. It's just the app will be free for download. It's just the company that has the C.CURE VMS set up, and if they have it enabled for Civic, they would be, the site would be set up for those transactions that get logged on.
I think that is it in terms of, there were similar questions to the first question, so I think that's it for Civic. Do we want to go back to some of the others?
Well, if they're easy.
Oh, yeah.
It says, when a visitor checks in, can the system notify someone in another area that the visitor has checked in and will be coming to their location?
So the host is going to get alerted when their visitor checks in. Is that what they're asking?
I
Not
think
sure.
it might be in addition to the host. The host, gets notified, picks up the visitor, but the visit is going to be in this secure lab or something. So they want to, let the lab manager know as well that there's a visitor that's going to be entering their space. I believe that's what they're inferring there.
I mean, that lab manager would have to be set up as a host and, associated to that visit site. They could be added as an additional host.
That's true. That's good.
You could have more than one host.
All right,
Okay.
We'll take one more. Can a phone be used as a temporary credential?
That is, again, part of the QR code aspect that we're working on. You'd have that QR code that you got with your visit invite. So you'd point it to the kiosk to get checked in, and then you'd use that same QR code, add a reader to gain access temporarily while the visit is active.
Okay.
Again, that's being worked on. We have some solutions in the works here that should be coming fairly soon.
Okay, looks like we're at the top of the hour. So I want to thank everybody for joining today's call. Like I said at the beginning of the call, I am going to send everybody that's on the call a link to the webinar recording, along with a PowerPoint presentation in PDF format. And I'm going to download all of the questions that were asked today, and the product management team will answer those questions, and we'll get an FAQs document out to everybody as soon as possible. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Really appreciate it.